This episode sponsored by She's Birdie. You lock the hotel room door, then check it again, and maybe one more time, because even the nicest room can feel unfamiliar at night. That's why She's Birdie created Birdie Box. With She's Birdie, you can bring peace of mind with you. Birdie Box is a portable travel door alarm for hotels, dorms, Airbnbs, and anywhere you stay away from home. Just attach it to the door frame, switch it on, and if someone opens the door, Birdie Box blasts a loud siren and flashing alarm to alert you and everyone nearby. Because the best part of travel isn't worrying, it's sleeping soundly. Birdie Box from She's Birdie, locking in peace of mind wherever you stay. For safer, more confident travel, visit shesbirdie.com. That's SHESBIRDIE.com.
The Randomness of Nothing podcast. This is your host, Rashad Woods. I have the honor and pleasure of talking to a wide variety of guests. And today's guest, I have the utmost respect for, and I'm very appreciative of his time. Steve Pappas. He's bought and sold 6 companies. He's a serial entrepreneur, fractional CFO, and most importantly, he's willing to take time out of his busy schedule today to share his story and insight into AI, business, and entrepreneurship. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure. Love the podcast. Was really looking forward to talking to your audience.
Oh, thank you very much. You know, I'm a firm believer that the best way to expand your knowledge is to first get out of your comfort zone, right? To ask people questions and then hope that they actually reply back. And so thank you for that. What has been this entrepreneurial and business journey in your life?
You know, if I go back a little bit, and I know we don't have hours here, so I'll try to keep it brief. But if I go back, it really started from my watching my family members that had started business. So when I was a very young kid, we had a candle making business when I was maybe 5 or 6. There was a produce company and a trucking company in the family, and you had to work it. All the kids had to work them. So I was there at 4 to 7 years old trying to lift these, 20-pound things with candles on them. Did that. And then, in high school, I had a revelation. I said, I love the new Trans Am that came out, the Pontiac Trans Am with the eagle on the hood. I said, I want that. So you know what I did? I started an ice cream business. I had my license. I said, I'm going to do an ice cream business. So from April to October, I remember it vividly. I made the $13,700 that it took to buy that Trans Am cash.
Wow.
And at that point, I was hooked. I was
100%.
hooked on figuring out, and it wasn't just about making money. It was about figuring out how you make it successful. How do you figure out what somebody needs, what they want? How do you answer give them a great experience, which is what my dad and my uncles taught me in their businesses. You shake their hand, you look them in the eye, and you over-deliver on your promises. That's all I knew. That's all I've done.
And you know what's amazing is that I think people equate sales with some sort of undermining or shady tactic, or it has a connotation when it's a solution that's provided for people. If you turn the term sales and you say I'm a solutions expert, instead of saying I'm a sales expert, it disarms people. I want to be your solution to your problem as opposed to trying to sell you something, because then what I'm selling you is your solution.
Yeah, you're right on the money. And because after all, aren't we all in sales? I mean,
Absolutely.
No matter what business we're in, no matter what part of the business, people say, "Oh no, I'm not sales." We're all involved in either making the sale, acquiring the customer, or servicing the customer of some sort. There's no other part of it, right? Nothing happens unless something gets bought, and then something needs to be fixed, and it just goes on and on. So I think you're right. That's the way the wheel keeps turning, and you don't even have to be a salesperson. I mean, I tell people, I say, hey, let me tell you about what we have. If there's a good fit, that's great. If not, I made another friend. Because someday you might need something, you'll call me back. That's the way I do it. It's not about selling anybody, because honestly, I think people buy. We don't sell.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Because half the time when you start talking to people in today's economy, they've already done the research. They've looked at
Yes.
all AI. They've done the top 10 lists. They've done it all, and they
Yeah.
know either I want your product or someone else's product, and
Right.
I'm narrowing it down. What are they really doing? They're trying to figure
Right.
out who I want to do business with.
Yeah, and I think that, and we're going to dive into that because obviously you've done tremendous work in
Sure.
healthcare and,
Yep.
and technology and business. So there's a couple different things that we touched on. The first is that how do you have a differentiation model in industries that are very competitive because there's, for example, when it comes to AI, there's a plethora of AI companies that
Sure.
offer very similar services, cloud infrastructure. You're getting the best of the best, consistently competing against one another.
Yep.
How do you establish your foothold in the industries that are very competitive?
I'll tell you the best way to approach it, and I've always prided myself on being able to solve for X, right? What's the thing you need to solve for? Today in AI, the key is not going to be how good the AI operates. The key is going to be what's it operating on, right?
Yeah, that's
How
powerful.
how governed and certified? Is there a stamp of certification on the data that is driving it?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it just looking at the corporate SharePoint chaos and trying to come up with an answer? I mean, because the reality is AI wants to please,
Yes.
AI will give you an answer, and AI
Yes.
will be confident in its answer.
Right.
Whether the answer is drawn from the most current, the right one, the governed one, and something that's certified, that's the question, right?
Absolutely.
So when you try to differentiate yourself today in AI, it's going to boil down to one word: trust.
Beautiful.
That's what it's going to boil down to in the future.
Beautiful. And it's weird because, people who are fearful of it, I've had this couple that on guests. I said, your spell check on your Windows 95 computer was AI. Your curated playlist in YouTube and Spotify and Pandora is AI. All the things that your recommended shows on your streaming service is AI. So you like certain portions of it because it's made your time very convenient. But when you actually start kind of bringing it to the surface of everyday life, people get very hesitant when in reality they've been utilizing these tools in their everyday usage. Your thermostat for your house, that's the digital thermostat.
Yeah, you're right. It's very much pervasive. But I think the key is when it comes to something about my job, that's when I start to push back, because now I'm more territorial about something and it becomes emotional, right?
Yes.
But the reality is that AI, while there's a lot of press about AI taking jobs or AI replacing people, there's as many stories about AI augmenting the human. And I'll give you an example. I was in a development meeting recently, and I was talking to the developers, and I was head of development, and I was saying, how many people have you had to, lay off or anything? None.
Mm-hmm.
We're hiring more. I said, but wait a minute. Now you're using AI too. Absolutely. Well, what are you doing? We're able to speed up the process. We're able to make sure that the testing is done better, faster, etc. We can now look back on things and pinpoint where something went wrong. All of those things had nothing to do with changes in the amount of workers. It had to do with making the workers much more efficient so that they could use their brain in strategy manner rather than in, I got to make sure that I write this comment next to this piece of code.
Yeah, right. And then, absolutely. And then, what happens too, and this, is that you can be in the innovation doom loop where you don't actually put anything out, right? Where it becomes more bells and whistles than the actual final completed product, because I've been guilty of that, right? When in reality, you have to put that prototype out, and AI can sit back and say, okay, this is your MVP, so to speak, and we'll get into your business career. Because it's like you keep wanting to add in layers to the cake, so to speak, instead of actually just putting out a cake, because the process of making the cake becomes the actual final product itself, so to speak.
Right. I couldn't agree more. And if I can find a way that I could take some of the things I didn't want to do out of the process and allow me to concentrate on the things that are going to differentiate, the things that are going to bring more value, the things that are going to help grow the business more. Now we're in a better position. I mean, this is probably the best time to be alive.
Without question. Without question. And, this process has been very democratized too. It's allowed people to, get skills from their home, from a library. It's integrating in the school systems, and you have a generation that's very tech savvy. And then you have people now who are in the workforce who now can gain new sets of skills. And it's just very important. And people like yourself who are doing podcasts are accessible in ways that weren't previously even 5 years ago.
That's right.
There's a lot of different things that are available to people. And, I get a chance to talk to cool people like you every single day and successful people. And I'm very grateful for that. Now, we'll get into the nuts and bolts of you buying and selling 6 companies. So here you are wanting to buy a car as a teenager. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, I got a taste of it. I want more. Where did you first start, integrating yourself as that entrepreneur after?
So it never went away. I needed to get the business degree under my belt a little bit. But then it started when I was looking at some businesses for the family. And my wife was interested in travel at the time. And she said, you know what, I think it'd be a good thing for us to look at a travel business. And of course I looked at it. Now I'm still Mr. Corporate, I'm in my area. And I said, all right, let's look at it. So I dug in. And my personality, unfortunately, good, bad, or indifferent, I got to dig in deep, right? I got to understand it, understand how this thing works, and also how can I make sure that it's successful rather than it's just a place we sent money to, right?
Correct.
So we started our first travel agency. Within a year, we had 3 of them. And then from there, I started. So what happens is when you get involved in something, it doesn't matter what business, if you keep your head high enough, you start looking at opportunities. Right?
Beautiful.
So I noticed there was opportunities in the convention market. So I started a convention company that took companies like Napa Auto Parts from all over the country to Disney and dealt with all of that. And how did I always thinking about how you differentiate, right? As you said earlier.
Without question.
So we sent hosts and hostesses to every location. So somebody from Albany, somebody from Jacksonville, somebody from, Vegas, all over where they were coming from. We sent our own representatives to fly on those planes with them, have all the toys and stuff for the kids. We made sure that we worked with the airlines on specialized cocktails for mom and dad. And I mean, we made sure we differentiate.
Concierge, right?
Yep. We printed everything up for them, exactly what was going to happen. And they had a great time. From there, we went into corporate travel. From corporate travel, we went into cost plus cruise business, and we were an 800 number all over the country. That's how I built my first contact center.
That's amazing.
And then I use that.
No, you know what it is in that it's the experience, right? Because now, because typically when people think of the corporate travel, they can, I've traveled at times, and it's not glamorous, right? Like I think of the George Clooney movie Up in the Air, right? Like it can be a pain in the butt, right? You're spending time away from your family, and there's other things that can get involved. So when you personalize that experience, that's the differentiation model that we talked about, where you're like, listen, we're going to make this an experience for people that they enjoy and they're taken care of, because it is a commitment and it is time away from your family and the things that you love. And that hit the nail on the head.
How do you make every customer feel like they are king or queen?
Of course.
Simple.
Of course. Now, there's a company, I've never heard of it. It's Panviva. Can we talk about Panviva?
Sure.
I consider myself a pretty, halfway decent, smart guy, but I don't know every company in the world, right? So I would love to talk about your experience with that, where you brought that into a technological powerhouse.
So the reason you probably didn't know it is because it was Australian-based.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Panviva decided they were going to step off of Australia because there really wasn't a lot of business there, and come into the United States. So I was recruited as the first group of people to take Panviva into the United States. Now, I had done a lot of international up to that point, but I also realized I spoke English, so I can bring something to the U.S. and expand it just as easily. Right. So I was part of that. I was running the Americas, Europe, UK, and I served as a chief marketing officer, but it was essentially a different type of knowledge management system that was almost like it was a little strip on the right-hand side of the monitor that told you what to say, what to do, how to handle each situation. Oh, if this occurs, click here, and it will tell you how to handle it, that version of it. Wow. So it was a really good and ahead of its time guide on the side. Well, a lot of contact centers were building out at that point. A lot of agents needed that guidance to handle things, and they needed to find information quickly so that they could provide a better experience for the customer. Well, we started building it out here, and before we knew it, we tapped into
sending your girl off to college. She's Birdie gets it. You've packed the sheets, the caddy, the mini fridge, but the one thing you can't stop thinking about is her safety when you're not there. That's why She's Birdie made the College Safety Bundle. 3 tools that cover almost every scenario campus throws at her. Birdie 3.0 is her everyday keychain alarm. One pull activates a 130 decibel siren, as loud as a jet engine. Birdie Disc is a safety light and alarm that clips on hands-free for visibility for late-night walks or early morning runs. And Birdie Box is her portable door alarm for the dorm door. It mounts in 30 seconds and sounds the instant that door opens. She's Birdie is the safety brand trusted by over 4 million women worldwide. Get the College Safety Bundle by She's Birdie and save big when you bundle. Visit shesbirdie.com. That's SHESBIRDIE.com.
A lot of large organizations and large associations. So one of the keys to the success here, and I'm going to give it away, was it wasn't selling just to a hospital, let's say, or to a health plan or to a bank. Right. It was finding the associations where those people hung out, learned more, rubbed elbows with each other, shared stories, shared technologies, etc. Right. And we started creating this incredible network of state-based. So whatever business you're selling to, you go to Google, you type in the name of a state and the type of association. So let's say it was Missouri Hospital Association, Missouri Health Plan Association, Missouri Credit Union Association. Yes. That opens up a world where you could go to their meetings. Sometimes it was just, hey, can you buy the bagels? We're going to be meeting on Thursday afternoon. Sure, we'll send somebody over. They'd speak for 10 minutes, and all of a sudden you realize there's 30 potential clients in this room. Yeah. That's how you start multiplying. I call it association selling. And
there's no AI agent that's going to tell you to buy donuts, ladies and gentlemen. There's no either you have it in you or you don't, right? So that's the human element that's involved where people will take donuts and coffee and it disarms people. Thank you. Your name's associated with it, right? You make, hey, who bought the donuts and food here? That was, Steve over in the corner there. Now there's the conversation that takes place, but there's no chat bot that's going to tell you maybe you should buy donuts for people that are standing in a room with a conference, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I've tried. AI has never given me that idea that I used.
Yeah. There's either you got it in you or you don't. So you bought and sold 6 companies. There's a plethora of what's that experience like, and can you give a high level overview of that process?
So as I was building out all of those businesses we talked about a little bit earlier, there was even technology companies. I had started my own airline. Wow. Why would anybody start an airline, right? I started a charter airline because I recognized that there wasn't enough inventory in certain markets during the holidays. So I said, all right, well, during the Christmas holidays, a lot of folks want to go back and visit family, but there are people there that want to come back, right? So I built that out, and I had also built out a technology company that was taking airline feeds And because I was tired of spending so much money with these airline terminals in all of our businesses. So I said, well, we got to be able to use some type of a Windows PC for this. How do we convert the signal coming in? HTML is now born in the late 90s.
Right.
So now we figured out how to take a signal from an airline terminal, convert it to HTML, and be able to do that. We sold that one to Travelocity, but it was the beginnings of everything. And I'll be honest, we didn't make as much money on that as we could have if we had built it up more and further. But it was the first taste of, you can take an idea, you can build it out well, and then there's other people that want to buy that, right? That was the first taste. And then we started looking at all of the other ways that we could sell those businesses that we had built up to a certain level, and we took emotion out of it, right? We took emotion out of it because we said, okay, when something is right to be sold, that's when you sell it. You don't wait till it goes past its expiration date.
Beautiful. And you know what's interesting about that is that, it's almost like for example, like MySpace, when they kind of fleeced I believe Fox bought them or something, like Fox Entertainment, right? They had well past their peak of where they were at, and they sold for like 420 million, maybe higher than that. But it was a substantial number, even though it actually had decreased significantly in the traffic in the space. And that's kind of when Facebook took its lunch, so to speak. But even though MySpace had its peak for people who are, of a certain age, that was the big social network of its time.
Of course.
So, but, kudos to the founder and the people that were involved with it. But they sold at the right time, so to speak, when they thought that there was still space for that particular MySpace, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
So, but to your point, maybe the best time is not necessarily in your mind, but it's right staring you in the face.
Yeah, yeah. And I think we're seeing a lot of that now with AI. I mean, everybody with a garage is building an AI company today, right? The problem is 99.99% of them will go nowhere and will never see the light of day or will be bought. But there's going to be the few unicorns that are going to make it through because somebody figured out how to differentiate their approach and did something that the AI companies are not going to turn around and put in as a feature.
Right. I agree with you. And I didn't mean to cut you off. I apologize. I just got I think education and healthcare, because they're personal services, to your point, are those sectors that are longing for those type of things, speeding up claims processes, integrating, data between doctors and networking and things like that. And then particularly when it comes to educational tools, those are things that are really large sectors where AI is if you have the right angle or the business acumen, those are going to be the ones I think are going to be successful.
Yeah. And they're the ones, so especially healthcare too. Healthcare has probably been the last one to the party.
Really?
That is really engaged in AI. Retail did it. Manufacturing did it first. There were so many industries that really embraced AI early. Healthcare had to hold off because of HIPAA with privacy information and all of those things. So they kind of held back a little bit. But now they're going into it pretty hard. I mean, I don't think there's probably any X-ray or any MRI being done today that cannot be processed through AI first, even before the radiologist looks at it. I was talking to the head of Accenture in Europe, and they have a radiology AI system that they built that can detect micro-sized tumors in certain parts of the body many, many months prior to where the naked eye could see it. So if you think about it, if you have something or might have something, you're counting on the radiologist to read that X-ray or that MRI and to see and pinpoint something to say, that doesn't look right.
Correct.
But AI can see it much earlier. So now if you buy people 3 months, 6 months or longer, the work they could do with medication,
Absolutely.
with cancer treatment drugs,
Without
with
question.
everything could give them that extra percentage of hope and possibility.
Right.
And this is happening in a lot of areas, but it's also now happening where you call the hospital or you call the doctor's office, and all of a sudden you're at CVS and your child is in your arms and the child needs an inhaler, and the between the doctor and the insurance company and CVS, there's a lag when they talk to each other.
Oh my gosh. And anybody who's ever
Right?
been in that position, I mean, it's just
Right.
it's personal.
Yeah. So now if you could put AI in the mix and speed up that processing, determine if this is allowable, what the percentage, what the deductible is, or
Right.
even if you've been denied, why was
Right.
it denied? Can I put into, do it again? Whatever
Yeah.
the case is, AI is now speeding up these processes and nobody sees that behind the scenes. But let's say you're a contact center person in healthcare and somebody's calling you saying, hey, why was my claim denied?
Right.
Well, even the agent can launch a way to reconfigure and relook at it and analyze it, and it starts shooting things out to other repositories, pulls information in,
Right.
and within a number of seconds, that has already been looked at again, and they say, we found the problem. Yes, we're going to allow that to go through. So
Beautiful.
These are the areas where we're helping provide better experiences, especially in healthcare, but fundamentally, we're helping consumers get the care that they need. That's kind of the key at the end.
And I think one of the issues that you typically can run into with healthcare is unlike, let's say, like if cellular service, right? So they all run off the same technology, so to speak, right? So it's very innovative. Yep. You have a hospital system where there's various different insurance, networks just from inside of its inside of a state itself. There's various HMOs, PPOs. So now you have multiple layers that use multiple technologies, some of them antiquated, doctor networks, hospital systems. So now you have a system that, for lack of a better term, is a patchwork of networking systems layered on top of one another. So to get a finalized answer is not as easy as just picking up a phone. And to your point, that can streamline that entire process, because anybody who's ever sat, to pick up a prescription, it's not a joyous experience by any stretch of the imagination. It's like,
right.
The line is long, the pharmacist is overworked, and then, you have to be there, right? So it's not something where it's like a wanted transaction, so to speak. So something that can speed that process up it's life-saving medicine for many people. So anything that can speed that up and provide clarity is a great thing.
Yeah, and that's where agentic AI is coming in to play. If you think about a process like what we just described, historically, you'd be picking up the phone to multiple places. You'd be going onto multiple websites. You'd be trying to figure it out, and somebody's piecemealing a lot of that together. So just think about that process. And what agentic AI is really geared to do is launch all those as little processes. So one is going to that website. One is launching to analyze the system. Yes. One is launching there. And those are all like coming out of a hub and spoke system. You're saying, okay, when we need to reanalyze a denied claim, here are all the things that get launched. Here are all. So think of it as like many AI chats happening at once, but they also have the logic capability and they can make decisions based on what comes back.
Yes.
But that goes to the agent now, and the agent might change what they have to say, change what they have to do, because now all of a sudden they're armed with the right information that just was returned in a package to them. That's where things are going. It's not just obviously in healthcare, but in a lot of industries, that is helping move the needle forward even faster.
Without question. And, I would say, and not to beat a dead horse on healthcare, it's the one thing that doesn't have to move fast based upon the need of the customer. So if you're trying to book a plane ticket, if you're trying to eat, you can kind of dictate because you can get up and leave and you can get up and go do something else. When it comes to that particular sector of business, you'll take the entire day off of work. You'll wait the necessary time, whether it's yourself, your spouse, your child, your mother, whoever it is. It doesn't necessarily have to move at the speed of the need of the customer, so to speak.
Right. It is the most personal thing we will encounter when it comes to our health.
Without question. If we've covered a myriad of topics, and obviously I'm very cognizant of your time. Where's your location? Where can people find you? And more importantly, thank you for being on the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure completely. So I'm in the New Hampshire area, but people can find me on websites. So they can either go to stevepappas.net. They can go to Exsynt, EXSYNT.com, which is one of my investments, another AI company for consultants. And my day job is head of innovations for eGain, EGAIN.com. And it's a phenomenal AI knowledge company that really makes a difference in today's businesses. So you can get a hold of me there or LinkedIn, and I'm happy to have a conversation with anybody that is curious or just looking to be pointed in the right direction.
And, hopefully this audience, takes your words to heart, because one thing that I found out is that you can get zip coded in life. And what I mean by zip coded is you drive past the same store, the same, gas station, and you go on autopilot. And when you find yourself, when you find yourself in that mode, you make a podcast, because you're like, there's got to be, in my little small world that I didn't invent anything nearly as innovative as you, but I felt that this show could, be the bridge the gap to people who got zip coded, such as myself. So for that, I am eternally grateful that you decided to take time on this little podcast in your busy schedule, and I appreciate it.
My pleasure. I was enjoying every second of it, and hopefully you'll have me back someday.
I would be honored, and I appreciate you, Steve Pappas, on the Randomness of Nothing podcast. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Take care.
Yep. Well,
sending your girl off to college? She's Birdie gets it. You've packed the sheets, the caddy, the mini fridge, but the one thing you can't stop thinking about is her safety when you're not there. That's why She's Birdie made the College Safety Bundle. 3 tools that cover almost every scenario campus throws at her. Birdie 3.0 is her everyday keychain alarm. One pull activates a 130 decibel siren as loud as a jet engine. Birdie Disc is a safety light and alarm that clips on hands-free for visibility for late-night walks or early morning runs. And Birdie Box is her portable door alarm for the dorm door. It mounts in 30 seconds and sounds the instant that door opens. She's Birdie is the safety brand trusted by over 4 million women worldwide. Get the College Safety Bundle by She's Birdie and save big when you bundle. Visit shesbirdie.com. That's SHESBIRDIE.com.